Hello and welcome to another episode of Typo Exposure. My name is Afifa Bari. I'll be your host. Shah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Shaw. I am a printmaker, just graduated from York University, and I specialize in screen printing. Yeah, let's go.
How would you define print to a beginner?
It's the practice of creating an image and using tools to ensure that the image can be replicated through a series of steps. There are many different types of printmaking, so it's not an easy task to explain how each print medium works, but that's the essence of it. You are a human printer or photocopier in that sense, with a lot of creative freedom.
That's a good way of putting it. What got you into printmaking in the first place? How did you get into this world?
Yeah, the first time I did print medium, I was in high school and it was screen printing and I hated it. um, and then I got back into it in my second year of university as an accident because I applied to my classes too late or enrolled into my courses too late and all the painting courses were taken. So I took a couple of print courses instead, and it was the best accident that ever happened to me. Um, yeah, and I think it just goes to show how I guess high schools lack in like print knowledge. You know, I thought screen printing was cutting out a stencil and then like I don't know, like flooding the ink on, but like it's so much more than that. And I wish they taught me that in school. But yeah, it I think officially kicked in university.
I'm gonna agree with you on that. Arts education in school, I'm talking like high school, middle school setting, it needs work. They take it as it's not a priority at all. I mean, they can get rid of the entire curriculum if they have to, if they don't have the budget, because it's just not a priority. They don't think it's an actual like career choice for students. They focus more on sciences and maths and humanities and stuff, like the more important stuff. I'm gonna put a quotation mark here, um, right? As opposed to the arts, when it is a legitimate career choice, and they don't even think about that part.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was taught how to paint in hyperrealism before I knew what a screen was. Like it was pretty intense. Yeah.
What attracted you to printmaking in the first place?
I've always loved collage. I love combining like my illustrations with photos. So I would do that like manually.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I can do, like on the same page, like that's what screen printing is, right? You can take a photo and an illustration, combine the two. And I also like the fact that several editions can be made because I don't know, like whenever someone tried to buy a painting from me, I'd end up not selling it because I love it and I don't want to let it go. But for like screen prints or whatever, like I can easily make 40 and then not feel guilty about giving one away because of how it can be used.
The attachment that comes with a painting is intense. You don't want to let go of it. But
Exactly. Exactly. But I feel like printers are very quick to be like, okay, I have 40. Like, do 40 people or 39 people want this? Because I'll keep one for myself. But yeah. And I also love how it can be used like in the fashion industry as well.
oh yeah, I love how the arts and fashions are connected, so they're intertwined together, but like no one notices them. If we get into the fashion world, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm an artist, and I can like put my stuff on clothes, and I can like people can walk around in my art. You know, that's just I find that beautiful.
Exactly. People can walk around in your art and people are like, well, I don't know, screen printing's like a factory job. I'm like, factory job? Have you seen like my mentor's sketchbook? It is filled to the brim with like sketches upon sketches. It looked like if you put a printer's sketchbook next to a painter's, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference, except for maybe the swatches, but that's about it.
It's just art, essentially.
Yeah.
Everything starts off with sketch. I feel like in the arts world, at least, even design, no matter how, I mean, design is pretty like simplified as opposed to fine arts and printmaking. But even
Mm.
then, they still experiment with like um I don't know, different fonts or something. I know very little about that world.
Yeah, yeah, sounds accurate. And I think like another thing is that like both painters and printmakers like they have community, but I feel like the community is stronger with the printmakers because we talked to graphic designers, right? I've talked to like an environmental designer, asking her like the placement of the logo, is it okay, is it whatever. I've talked to like, I don't know, like people who specialize in different types of inks. While I feel like painters, like, yes, they have that community, but they're still very like individualistic. While print is like a community. Like to release one design, we consult like 10 people, and it's like the greatest thing ever.
I did not know that part. I just thought, okay,
Yeah,
you go Harvard and you go.
it's intense.
What do you focus on in terms of printmaking?
Currently I am screen printing. I also do like copper plate as well, or like
Mhm.
intaglio, but I work at a screen printing shop and I started my own clothing line recently with the help of my print mentor, so I definitely say it's screen printing.
I'm gonna link your
Yeah.
clothing, your what's it called?
Yeah, sure, sure. The
Your little
website,
startup.
oh, it's Olive Branches JPEG. Yeah, but like the website is still in the main. But yeah, it's great. Like once again, like it's a community, right? Like I have a photographer, a graphic designer, like someone who helps me with packaging, and then you talk to models, and like it's just not a lonely world when you're a printer. Yeah, like yeah, I'm having like a mental health series coming up. I'm posting the trailer like tonight, and it's exciting. Like yeah, my friends went to the beach. Like we had like a couple of non-alcoholic beverages, and I was just like, put the shirt on, and they're like, okay, and I took photos, and then like it was great. Like it felt natural, like it doesn't feel forced. It's not as staged. It's like, hey, keep playing volleyball, but wear the shirt, and they're like, okay, and then like that's it, free advertising, you know.
It's really like nonchalant.
Yeah,
That
like
was
some can be really like structured, but yeah.
what inspired you to start off your little clothing line.
Yeah. I think I've been wanting to do it for a while because of the lack of decent mental health and Christian apparel. And it's also confronting a lot of like the taboos as well in the community. Like, oh, I'm wearing, okay, oh, they can't see my face, but like it says like theology and therapy in the back.
That's so you. That's like a
And
summary
that
of you.
is a summary of me. And it's like, how come like religion and like therapy are in conflict? Like they shouldn't be. Like they go hand in hand. Like you are a spiritual person, you are a physical person who has physical and mental needs and like spiritual needs. So why do we put the two as if like they're polar opposites? So I think like that's been a reoccurring theme in my work. And others feel it as well. So I guess I just saw the need in my community of people who are conflicted, who are depressed because of COVID, and I don't know, who's the solution is either like pray, good luck, or go to therapy and good luck. And it's like, why not both?
You both connect them both.
Exactly. And then I have like, a line for like the secular audience too, because I've heard people say, like, I want to support you, but I'm not a Christian. I'm like, that's okay. And that's why like there's also like the mental health matters like aspect, right? Where it's like purely that. I don't know. And I just feel like we could do better as a community in designing better clothes that have a great message and a deep message like behind it.
Do you think your I'm just call it company, your clothing line? Do you think
Sure.
it adds to the commercial aspect of print, or do you think you take it more as an art thing, or are they connected?
That is a great question. I'd have to say both. I say it's very commercial in the sense that like it is fashion, right? Like it is something that is worn on a shirt, and I don't sell each shirt for like $200 like I would a print, but they're like, I don't know, like $25 or something. However, I've also had galleries, or singular gallery, a gallery, reach out to me and say, hey, if you want to put your shirts on display at our gallery, go ahead. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Yeah, it's Dirty Laundry 808. It's like downtown or something. I've showed there before, like with like actual prints, and they're like, hey, you have clothes? Put them up. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I felt kind of weird about that because
Mhm.
it would have like, there's an artist title, there's a name, a date, and a price. And it's like, they could just go to my website. But, that's an option, I guess. But yeah, it's really funny. So I'd say both. I'd say the process was definitely fine art centered, as in like I had 1,000 sketches and whatnot. Um, but I guess I don't know. Like it's hard for me to separate the two sometimes.
Do you think the commercialized aspect, how does that affect you as an artist?
It benefits me very much. So I think just because I tried the fine art life, like I tried. I was interviewed at one point, like in like a Markham magazine, and it's like that's cool. That's gonna boost my painting career. It didn't, and it didn't work out for me. And I've talked to many people who have their own like small businesses, whether it be like tattoo artists or um, like people who make enamel pins. Like I work for another, like I'm an assistant at another company, Horse Fiddle Press. Love you guys. And they tried. They started as oil painters, like hardcore commission based oil painters that would like go to these outdoor galleries every year, and they said like selling a painting was like winning the lottery because there were just so
Oh,
many vendors,
mhm.
and like it's very limited. It's like, yeah, you just put it in your house and call it a day. And I don't know, it was very rare that I sold a painting or that I let go of a painting. But yeah, I think like it's very profitable to have art with a function. I think art with a function makes it even more spectacular or whatever, and like less exclusive. Yeah.
That is true. The fine arts industry is very exclusive. It's limited more like to the elite, or the
Yeah.
upper class, because they can actually just afford the pieces. Which, as an
Mm-hmm.
artist, as a person who's trying to sell oil paintings, my prices I feel like are very high. But at the same time, it's like I deserve this. I worked hours on this.
You
What's the
do.
materials and the
Exactly.
time and the energy and the mental energy that comes with it, emotional energy. I mean, you've seen us work. You've seen us have
I have
breakdowns
seen you.
and
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So, I mean, I've had multiple breakdowns in school over a painting. It's just like, I want this thing work. So I feel like the prices as an artist, I think they are worth it with all the, everything we go through to make a painting, the suffering we do, which sounds such a 18th century thing to say. But like, it's so true because if you read that in a textbook, you're like, what suffering did you do? But when you're actually painting, you're like, why won't this
Mm,
thing work? Right?
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And that is fair. That is more than fair. Like I don't think people see the labor intensiveness that goes behind it. Once again, like it's exclusivity, right? Like you paint a painting and that's the only painting in the world that looks like that.
It's
But
unique.
like
Mm.
that's what makes the value so high, and that's okay. Like I am all for that. I'm all for artists getting like their money's worth because like y'all deserve it. It's just it's hard. It's a very hard industry. It's a very hard community, and I know like some people really like they truck through it and then they get through it. So like I wish that for every artist.
That's true. I mean, as a fine artist, you do kind of have to go through these hurdles. But I feel like as a printmaker, painting a side thing now, and print is the
Yeah,
main thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I feel like you're an artist, but you're also entering the fashion world, like you're on the brim of it, because you are designing clothing and
Mm.
bags and stuff, which is you're entering the fashion industry, but like you're not really in it. But like you're an
Mhm.
artist, but like you're combining both together. Sounds very complicated when I say it. um, How do you feel about that? How does that affect you as an artist, knowing that you're entering this other world?
um, I compartmentalize. Like it's hard to be like, yes, I will combine the two and become this artist slash printmaker, and like I'll be a whole new. And it's like, no, I can't. I really can't. Even just like the power of social media, right? Like everyone needs a style or like a brand, right? um like people are paid to make branding guides. Like I know like my boyfriend, he made like a booklet on like for like this other small business, and like each page was branding, like here are colors, here are the fonts we're going to use, we're not going to use anything else outside of this color scheme, these fonts. And for me to be like, okay, here's a hoodie, next post here's a painting, like it doesn't work, like it
Mhm.
clashes very much so. And people find me when they want to hire me, so I have 2 photos of myself. That's about it, right? Like I can't really post much about my social life on my personal account because that's how like my bosses found me. That's how they figure out what my values are, what I post on my stories, what so on and so forth. I have like my clothing account, so that's just more like branding philosophy, right? So I'm not gonna post like a meme that I found funny on my feed. Maybe I will. I don't know. But mainly like inspirational quotes, so on and so forth. And then you have like the art account where what I do is I just share other artists' work, and then find that that's helpful and whatever. I post announcements of any upcoming shows, and then I have like my actual hidden personal account where people just see videos of me screaming and like running at the beach or whatever, but like that's about it. So compartmentalizing is so key for any artist, because I feel like sometimes it's like, I have so many artist identities. I am a painter but a singer, and it's like, okay, but don't post your karaoke gig on your painting account, right? Like they're very, I feel like Hannah Montana sometimes, like you have to live these separate lives and manage them well. And yeah, like there's no pressure on you. People aren't like, where's Painter Sean? It's like, she's taking a break right now. It's fine. Like, leave her alone. But yeah, I think that's having multiple online presences or identities is very like applicable and essential, I think, when you're balancing all of these different things that you're doing.
Do you think over commercialization of print has gotten its value? Considering how it's used as a way, like by offices to just brand their stuff and as an artist. So it's kind of everywhere. Do you think that's brought down its value?
I think yes and no. Like print, like the purpose of print was mainly like commercial stuff, right? Like printing books. I think books was the first thing ever printed. And then like posters, right? Like when they wanted to draft people to the wars and stuff. And then packaging, and then so on and so forth. I don't think it's reduced its value as an art, but it's reduced the value because there are multiple copies of it, right? So back then, books would be like mad expensive because everything was handwritten by scribes and whatnot. But now, like, you can get a Kindle or whatever. Like, how far we progressed, I don't think that means that the actual art itself is not as important as other arts. I just think that because it's accessible to everyone, right, no matter what like class or age you're in, unless you're like, real bougie and you're selling a hoodie for like $300. I know people who do that, like good for them. But I think, yeah, sorry, the art itself is not less valued. It can be, like people can value it less in their own eyes, and I guess that's something that they can work through on their own. But like monetary wise, I think it has. But it evens itself out because like you sell like 30 editions of the same thing, which sometimes is even more than like buying one painting. And you have more clients or like customers in that way as well. So you're building your own community too, right? Like only so many people can own an original a FIFA painting, right? And that'd be great. But like that's your community, that's your inner circle. And it's like over 200 people can wear something that was made by XYZ, and that's their community. So it just, I don't know, yeah, like quality is the same, quantity is different, and I guess that's what makes the value different. But they're both just as highly respected, or I hope they are both just as highly respected.
I think they are. I feel like as an artist, if you make a print as an artist, it's valued more than if you just make a print to make a print. That makes sense? Because as an artist, you're already like adding to the culture of society. Like there's something behind your ideas are more complex as an artist, I think. Versus if you're just like making a print to make something, like when I was learning print, I don't know, I made flowers and stuff like that, as opposed to your intense art about mental illness. They're two different things, right? Because you're coming from a place of, you want to make a change, you want to spread your knowledge, your ideas into the world. You're thinking as an artist. Whereas if I were to make print, I just think of it as print, right? I'd be proud of it because I'm not the best printmaker. I tried, but as an artist, you come from an art background, it's going to bring up its value, right? Whereas if it's as an office person, we're to make a print, it'll just be a print.
What do you mean by print for like as a print? Like you mean like just printing for the sake of printing, or?
Yes. Whereas your ideas are more complex. You have like sketchbooks upon sketchbooks of ideas and things you want to discuss with your work. that's thinking like an artist. I think I feel like as artists, we want to add to culture, add to society, just bring a message to the world. We're not just a pretty picture. It may look pretty, but it's not just a pretty picture. There's more behind it than just what it looks like.
I think like your art is very similar in that sense as well. Like I think I painted for the sake of painting because I wanted a good mark, right? And it's like the description would be like, okay, paint something with this limited color palette and you'll get an A. I'm like, okay, what do I like? I like plants. I'm gonna paint the cactus, you know? And it's just the cactus, man. But I think like your recent show was on like capitalism, right? And like the just abundance of stuff that we have. Like I think I felt pretty convicted. I was looking around my room and I'm like, I am a struggling minimalist. I am getting there slowly but surely. But I think, yeah, like the intensity of a person's like thesis, I guess, like translates into the medium they love the most. I think.
Yeah. My love for fashion made me want to stop shopping. That's a contradicting statement. I know that. Sometimes like, why am I buying so much stuff? Like, why do I need this? And then, like 2 or 3 years ago, I feel like I had a lot of breakthroughs 2 or 3 years ago that are affecting my life now. But it was just like, oh, what on planet Earth am I doing moment? Where I would just put my foot down, and that created the entire everything I'm working on right now. And to the fashion industry and commercialization and industry evolution, materialism, capitalism, consumerism, all these big ideas. They're just kind of showing up in my work now, which I feel like it's connected to your work, which you are entering the fashion industry. But you're also not like over commercializing it. Now you're taking more of an art form. I'm not sure if you like make multiple, clothing, whether you're going towards more of a commercialized route or like fast fashion versus slow fashion route. In that sense. No. Do you make limited amount of shirts, or do you like produce? Or do you make like, I have an order, so I make a t-shirt type of thing?
Oh gosh, I love your questions. Like practically it doesn't feel right to order like 50 of each size and whoever wants it gets it. I'm stuck with this inventory, right? That's the beauty of pre-orders. Like I also believe that I don't need to print like 1,000 things and then pray and hope that like 500 of them get sold. Like I don't think that's smart or right, or I don't think it's ethical, like it makes me feel a type of way when I don't know, like when the stock, like when your inventory is so high and you're just there with like piles of clothes and like it's, I mean, it works for some people and I guess for me it doesn't. So that's the beauty of pre-orders. What? Yeah, like people, I don't know, I feel like everyone on TikTok or like social media are like, start that small business you've been thinking about. Start it now. Insert motivational quote. And it's like, tell them about pre-orders. Tell them about the cost of their labor. Like, tell them about so many other things. Yeah, pre-orders is just, if you want a shirt, you have 1 week to order it, and then it'll take me 2 weeks to make it. Yeah, and like, I think it gives the consumer time to not impulse buy, because they're not going to get it right away, right? Like, I'm not Amazon. I don't ship in 2 days. Like, I think like I want to promote mindfulness, because it's like once I don't know, I don't have any more of like the first like when something is done, it's done, right? And I don't want to keep feeding that, because there are new things to look forward to. And like I think that's the beauty of like pre-ordering, is to have people consciously meditate and go, hey, is this something that I want? Is this something I'm willing to wait 2 weeks for? Right? And if it's not, then it's not for you. Like it's as simple as that, right? Rather than me mass ordering things and then mass printing things only to find out that I'm only going to sell 20. Like, I think that'd be pretty sad. Yeah.
It's a good way to take it. Like knowing that you want to work towards a more ethical brand instead of like going to like fast fashion and just constantly making stuff. If it doesn't sell out, it doesn't sell out, and you're just like kind of stuck with that whole piles of clothing just sitting there.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you want it, you're gonna get this. That's the end, If you want something else, I'll make that for you. Like it's like exclusive, it's like specially made for the person.
Yeah, like Well, sorry, you mentioned the word exclusive. I don't mean to interrupt. And like, there's still, I guess, a level of exclusivity to some extent. And maybe in a month from now, if people really want me to restock, then sure, I will. But once again, like, it goes back to like that mindfulness and knowing that like this is not just something that I can like make in a day and then send out the next day, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's a level of exclusivity still.
Good exclusivity. It's not like it's only for the rich or it's only for the poor. It's more like this is specifically made for you because this is what you want, is right. It's like it's promoting slow fashion. It's mindful. It's thinking about the product itself and what's going to do to the planet and you and the person buying it, as opposed to here's a stock. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it's not. It's going to end up in some
Landfill?
landfill. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Or somewhere on the other side of the world, just kind of sitting there. It's not that. It's just okay. This is for you. And you cherish it more that way, knowing that it was made for you specifically. Like the bag I got for me, I don't know what to use. I don't know how to use it because it's so pretty.
Oh no, I've had people like tell me like I spilled coffee all over it. I'm like, oh, my heart kind of just broke a little, but it's okay. But it's like, oh, you burnt a hole in your tote bag? Oh no.
That sounds heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, if I bought your painting, oopsies, I spilled coffee all over it. How do I get it out? And it's like, with my tears. But it's okay, it's theirs. Like I've learned to detach myself, and it's like if it's their shirt, it's their shirt, you know. But yeah, my boyfriend bought a white hoodie for me. He didn't buy it. I gave it to him. I'm a nice person. And then he spilled like pasta sauce on it.
Oh.
And I just looked at him. He's like, I'm sorry. And then he just sat there bleaching away. And I'm like, it's not mine anymore. I just have to keep like telling myself, like, it's not my child anymore. It's not my art anymore. It's his. It's his problem. I don't need to worry about it. But yeah.
It's painful. Like for my kids at least, if a painting falls, I have a like mini like heart attack. I mean, spilling coffee or like pasta sauce on a hoodie that you made, it's just like do you believe print is underrated? I feel like you're doing a lot with it, but I feel like it's still underrated, but it's also overrated at the same time. It's like, is there a balance? What do you think as an artist, as a printmaker?
I think it is underrated because people don't understand how it's done. Like, I am convinced that people still, like, there are t-shirt printers out there, you know, like where you can put a shirt in a printer and I think it's called, yeah, direct to garment. And like, people just automatically think, like, isn't there a machine that like prints the design on it? It's like, yes, if you want a low quality print. Sorry, but like, it's true, right? Like, there's a difference between the shirts you'll get at Uniqlo versus like the shirts you'll get at, like, I don't know where people shop, like Shein or AliExpress, you know? Like, even like the texture is different, and it's like, what makes you think that a machine did it? And like, maybe that's what like makes print underrated. People don't sense a human presence, and it's creepy. And they just disassociate t-shirt from human, right? Like, they think it's a robot doing something when it's actually like a 22-year-old eating ramen noodles in her basement so she can like make your shirt like stunning and spotless, right? So people know how paintings are made, right? You have, I'm trying to think of really famous, like Colors by Felix, right? This guy does like speed paintings of like, you know, him painting a forest or whatever. People are like, okay, I can sense that a human did this because it doesn't look like a photograph. But the moment people see like, okay, there is a photograph onto a shirt, that must have been a robot. And it's like, no, like, people don't know how an image is burned onto a screen. They don't know how photo emulsion is applied. They don't know how to do a reduction cut, and they don't know how like aqua tints are done. And that's okay. Like, I'm not shaming people for not knowing, but I'm saying like we don't get a lot of that exposure, which is why like I love social media once again, because like screen printers and TikTok, I don't know, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what gave printers the idea to just become like their own community on TikTok and Instagram, but it's great because they're showing the behind the scenes, because people just automatically think that if something looks like a photo, it must have been done with, you know, like I don't know, insert robot type of like machine thing, when it's like, there was a person who was on Photoshop for 7 hours making that image, right? There was a person who test printed and who has like a bunch of failed hoodies that they wear to sleep because they can't sell them. And like people don't see that, right? But people see the finished product and they go, cool. There is zero human presence in that. Therefore, I disassociate it from all artistry. But it's actually pretty intense and mindful. Like I think the process of even like applying ink onto a screen or a copper plate is a mindful and meditative thing. It was my supervisor when I worked at a studio as a studio monitor, who was kind of just like, Shaw, when you're applying ink to this thing, like just meditate. I'm like, what? And he's like, you're gonna be here for 15 minutes putting ink onto your copper plate. I'm like, that's true. He's like, what are you gonna do within those 15 minutes? Don't rush it. Just relax. Like play some music. I'm like, sure. So I played some lo-fi, and like it took me a while, but I was just putting the ink on and rubbing away at the excess, and I was just like, dang, like there is no way to speed this up. And it sucks that there's no trace of human, right, in my work, but I guess that's the beauty of it. That's the mystery of it. People still go up to my prints and they're like, cool painting, and I'm just like, you know what? It's a thought that counts. Thank you. It is a cool painting. I think it's cute. I don't take offense to it. People are like, that's a really cool drawing. It's like, thanks.
I guess you're still learning the art world. No, mistaking a print for a painting or anything all at once, but you're entering like all these different worlds at the same time, and you don't even know what you're doing yet because you're just in the moment. Right? I mean,
I agree with you. I was just saying, like, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that like print is like this weird, like, I don't even know where it falls. Like there is no category. I was just taught, hey, like, are you 3D or 2D? I'm like, what? And they're like, is your medium like 3-dimensional? Are you a sculptor or a painter or someone who draws? And it's like, I could be all three, but I ended up finding a medium that like worked for me. Like I know some people like they do woodblock carvings and then they sell the actual wood block, and it's like, what the heck? That's amazing. Like yeah, and like some people like their wood blocks like are they purposefully have them in like circles and in like arches, and they carve into those because they look like a decorative piece. Like it's, and they put a price tag on it and it sells, and it's like cool. Right? Like every part of it. Exactly. Isn't it funny? It's kind of like if you sold a painting and your paintbrush and the palette that you used to paint it, and people love it because like there's still like a decorative element to it where it's like every part of this can be used somehow.
How would you bring prints, I guess, value up for the average consumer? Someone who knows very little about the art world, about print itself, but someone who doesn't see the person behind the work. Mm-hmm. How would you spread, I guess, knowledge? The fact that there is a human being here and that your shirt did not just appear out of thin air. How would you tell that to the average consumer? Or would you tell that to the average consumer?
That is a good question. Some people choose not to. Like, I know my boss, like, he doesn't want his face in any of the videos that I take for him because he's like, I want people to think that, like, this was done by a machine. But it's like, psych, I made that. It's like, okay, sure. You know, like, that's what some people, like, work with, and they like the mystery behind it. I think I'm very transparent. I'm also not aggressive. Like, I don't think I'd school someone if they're like, yo, what machine did you use? I'm like, my arms. Like, what like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel a need to unless it's like intensely necessary. I think like behind the scene, like once again, I'm very practical, you know, like I could give you a philosophy on the human presence in art, or I could tell you what to do so that we can make ourselves like more known as artists. And like it's really using social media. Like I love social media just because I hate it, but I love it because of how much like exposure, like how many people you're able to reach through like a screen, and just filming behind the scenes videos and like showing people the process behind it is such a great thing to do. Like I know like Horse Fiddle Press, like the company or small business, sorry, that I work with right now, I pushed them to do a sketchbook video. I'm like, can you please do a sketchbook release video? And they're like, no, I don't know, Shaw. And they did, and like it was insane because like I asked like the audience like how many pins, like they sell, people can't see this, but they sell like pins and patches, right? And it's like how many pins can you identify in the sketchbook? And people can find like 20, 30 potential designs like in the thing. And these were shirts, these are pins, these are things that they wear. And to see them at like their rawest stage I think hits home because it's like, hey, there was a dude here who drank 8 cups of coffee to come up with this cute idea, and they did it, and I don't know, maybe the lack of human presence shows success, right? Because I know there are also in the art there are bad artists, right? There are bad screen printers who are like, I need people to know that my human presence was here. So they put like their thumbprint on their work, and it's like, that's cool. Don't know if that was intentional, but they try to play it off, and it's like, uh-oh. Like, I think sometimes it makes us look bad. Where it's like, people need to know I was here. Handprint. And it's like, you don't, like, I would never sign like this. You know what I mean? Maybe like I'll put a business card in. I don't think it's my main goal to show people like how it's made. I think it's a cool thing on the side. Does that increase the value? I guess. Like, not monetary value necessarily, but it increases, I guess, the way that people see print, right? I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did.
I think it did.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any advice for these, I guess, beginner painters or people who are learning print, getting into that world, or the people who aren't so great at painting?
Oh, um, yeah, my biggest one, I wrote a couple notes. I wrote find mentors, right? Like find people who have been printing for almost 10 years. Find places where equipment is accessible, right? Like, you're not just a machine, you're an image maker. So make images and make them well. Like, I'm really pushing the agenda for people to find mentors, whether it be painting mentors or it doesn't have to be print, but like my bosses will tell me like, Shaw, don't buy this type of ink. I used it like 8 years ago and all my shirts are destroyed now. So don't do that to yourself. And it's like, okay, like these are the people who want to see you succeed. And I've never encountered, maybe like once, but like I've never encountered like a printmaker who is like, don't learn this or else it'll be better than me. But they teach you how to play the game and how to play it well. And like, I've had my boss tell me, like, I wish someone hired me the way I hired you so I could learn the way that you're learning. Because I learned through trial and error and it cost me thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening to me, And he's like, don't do that. Like, don't, whatever. And I don't know, like I get so emotional thinking about it because my boss is kind of just like, he's not just my boss, he's my homie, like we eat burgers together, like we it's a great time, and like I don't feel like he, like there is that level of respect where it's like, you are my printing mentor, like you are the person who did everything like I could not do, so I wouldn't have to make the mistakes you made. But at the same time, you're my friend, and you're the person who'll be like, Shaw, there's a convention downtown, you should apply. Or, Shaw, like, you need to use like this type of garment instead of this one, or else it's gonna burn in the dryer. I'm like, dang, thank you. Like, these are people who genuinely want to see you succeed. And it's not like the olden times where it's like, do exactly what I do or else you're screwed. But it's like, I feel like my mentors acknowledge that I am an image maker with my own set of values, philosophies, and whatnot. I think like 2 of them are Christian, 1 of them isn't. And even the one that isn't is like, that's a really great idea, Shaw. Like reconciling, like, theology and therapy. And it's like, thanks. I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, please find mentors. Like, you're not in this alone. Like, the art community is a community for a reason. And like, yes, it's cool to think that you'd be the artist in an attic in Paris painting by yourself and then like getting coffee in the nighttime. But it's not ideal, and I think you miss out on so much when you're not plugged in to a community. And I don't know, like you'll see illustrators on Instagram who like go out for coffee together, right? Or you'll see like painting day with the girls, and like it's like, oh my gosh, like these are all the painters I look up to, and they're all friends. What the heck? And they are friends, like,
Or crits every week.
yeah, right. And it's not just business. Like, I was invited to go out to a cottage with a couple people that like have their own like clothing line, and I had to politely decline just because like I have my own stuff going on. But it's just so beautiful to see that like I am not your competition. I'm not just your mentor. I am your friend. Let's get burgers. Let's get sushi and talk about what ink to use. Like it's just such a beautiful thing and such a great community. So yeah, I encourage people to get plugged in to a community because I've seen people that try to print on their own, and some people succeed without a doubt, and other people like blow off like $800 on equipment that they don't even need. And then it's like, how do I use this? I don't know, like varnish, like I don't know, like resin or whatever to like do their nails, and it's like, homie, what's happening? You know? And it's like you can. That's for oil painting, buddy.
Like artists romanticize too much in that way. We're thought of as people who just kind of sit in the studio, like drinking your coffee, just like it's they just see the pretty picture behind it. I mean, no, they see the pretty picture, but they don't see the work that goes into it. I mean, the community itself, the support system that you have, that you built, your friends, your art friends, they help you to move you forward. I mean, you know this, but like we share, gallery shows coming up and like events coming up and like, hey, you might be good for this. Like I thought of you when I saw this type of thing. Not just like, oh my gosh, I'm better than this, or we don't think in that way. It's just like I want to move forward, but I want to move forward with you. Like if we're gonna rise up and get to all these bigger like exclusive art marketplaces, we're gonna get there together. It's not just me and me alone. It's, I met you, you're into this as much as I am, so I'm gonna take you there with me. That community stuff, I feel like that helps a lot in that sense, knowing that you have a group of people that got your back, right?
Exactly. And like the best type of people are the ones who are willing to tell you that your work sucks sometimes, you know?
Yes.
Like here's the thing, I have a group chat with designers, environmental designers, graphic designers. I have 2 graphic designers, 1 environmental designer, 1 girl who's gonna major in history. I don't know why she's there, but she likes fashion, so I just I plopped her in there. I have another girl who wanted to go to OCAD. She's still working on her portfolio. And then I have painters, right? Like I have a group of people who like would probably buy cow blood and put it on a wall and be like, yeah, something about environment, like they're separate groups. I would never like put them in a room together. And I noticed the fine artists were kind of just like, Shaw, I noticed that smear on your shirt, but I think it's intentional. I'm like, what? No, like that was a mistake. That's because my hands weren't clean while I was printing. And they're like, no, but you could sell that. That could be like an original because like there's a human presence. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna talk to you about this anymore. And then I have like my boss who's like, they said what? Are you kidding me? That's gonna ruin your brand. I'm like, if I sell tote bags with my handprint on them and I go, it's a one of a kind, like that's bad. That's my Instagram is gonna plummet. Goodbye, small business I dreamed of. Like she's gone. You know what I mean? Like you don't want that. And then you have graphic designers who are like, Shaw, like the font you're using sucks, or like your image is not centered. What are you doing? Right? Like I know my mentor, he saw my images. He's like, this looks so uneven. I'm like, what? And he's like, it's a great image, but Shaw, are you blind? I'm like, huh? And he was just roasting my work. And he's like, it's not in the middle, and you're putting this on shirts. What are you thinking? And I'm like, can we just talk about this later? Like, I'm not in the right headspace for you to criticize my work. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, could we do this over a booster juice? And he's like, okay. I just had to like calm down. But like those are the best people, the ones who are willing to be like, that's uneven, that sucks, don't use that color palette, stay away from that like brand or company, or like don't even bother using like this type of ink. And like the ones who like, I'm very stubborn. I really pushed to use like this one type of ink that everyone warned me about because I thought it was cool. I'm like, this is cool. It's like, it feels nice, whatever. I made a tester. I washed it, and like the design just washed off. And like you should have seen me. I wiped my tears with that shirt. I'm like, it's a good thing I didn't sell these. And my boss is like, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah, find community, find mentors. Period.
Some people tell you when you're doing something wrong, and like if it works and if it doesn't work. So like, if we didn't have those, we'd all just be like bad painters and not know we're bad painters, bad artists. Which I mean, they do exist, but like I feel like they are there, and they don't know that they're there because they're lacking the support system, right?
Exactly.
We were able to build a support system because I mean, you have your workplace, you have when you met in school, you have us, the fine artists, and you, the printmaker, and like you get both perspectives, right? But I feel like you need that support system, someone to guide you and tell you, okay, this is good, this part sucks, this is how you're gonna fix it, or this is how you're gonna fix it. Like to give you like different ways you can fix it, or different people you can reach out to, different videos you can look at, something there to like be like, okay, this part sucks, please fix it.
Exactly. Like I have so many like Photoshop files on my computer that are just like fail 1, fail 2, don't show this, bad design. Like You know, like I have reworked the image on my back about like 20 times before people were kind of just like, okay, I think that could work. And it's like, really? Are you sure? It's intense. It's really crazy. It's a lot of crying, but at least you don't cry alone. You get to cry with your friends while drinking bubble tea or whatever.
It's more, I feel like it's more humane. You know what I mean? To like have know that you've actually suffered. I feel like I'm using that word too much. To make something, it just makes it even more beautiful than it already is, right? It's just like, yes, you see a pretty picture, but like the human suffering,
Exactly.
the emotions that go into a painting. Like no matter how simple it is, you're like, okay, I had to do all this research, plus all these failed attempts to get this thing that you're looking at that you want to buy on a bargain, let's say, right? I'm not sure if you had those yet, but like, especially for small business, I feel like I've seen this, but they ask you for a bargain, like for paintings too, they ask you for a bargain, like, but I'm this, you know, can you sell for cheap? It's just like, no, do you know everything I went through to make this thing that you want for this price?
Yeah, or like I do like labor exchange sometimes. Like I know I needed photos for like my portfolio because people were asking. Like there was like this one place that was like, we need photos of your work for I think it was Open Studio, and I was applying for like a residency there. And I had a photographer friend and he was willing, but I was like, hey man, I don't have money right now. Do you want one of my paintings? And he's like, yes, I've been eyeing this one. Like, is it still in your basement, just rotting away? I'm like, sure. And he's like, can you sign it? I'm like, okay. So it was a painting in exchange for my whole like portfolio that I can submit anywhere. Like I've submitted it to like schools, I've submitted it to open, and I can just reuse it over and over and over again. Or I know some people who are like, Shaw, I can't afford a shirt, but I can model for you and I can drive you to the location and whatever. And like that's exactly what happened, you know? Like they got me a coffee and I was like, thanks. And we went out and I shot them a couple of times and it was hot. Like it was we were sweating and whatever, and they got a shirt in the end, and I'm like, cool. So I
Nice.
thought that was, yeah. Like I don't like the term bargain. Like I don't like it when it's like, hey, can I get a discount? It's like, no, but can you work? You know, like can you work for me? Can you package stuff for me in my basement? Because I don't want to do that part. Or like, are you able to drive me places where I need to like shoot like a model? Or can you edit a video for me? You know, um, yeah. Like this one girl, we collaborated and she is my bridge to the United States. Like she lived in New Jersey and then she moved over here to Canada and she does music and she asked if like we wanted to collaborate with her. So it was a whole team effort. Like my boyfriend filmed and then like I prepped like the hoodies that she was gonna wear in the thing. And next thing you know, like one of her friends from the US was like, hey, do you ship here? And I'm like, sure. So like yeah, like and I gave her a free shirt and she said that I can use like her music whenever I want. So labor exchange I think is very important.
Do you need closing remarks for us?
Sure. I think it's really just like the need for community. And like even this, like even the podcast and whatnot that you're doing, like it brings people together as it should. And it helps people recognize that we're not rats in our basement that like are hungry and like beg on the street to have our paintings sold. Like we are human beings who go to shows and conventions and collaborate with artists and go to more shows and conventions. And I think it's a life worth living. And I don't think it's as depressing as the media makes it. Because
It's
sometimes,
not depressing. It's
yeah,
like I think it's over romanticized, but it's also not romanticized enough,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, it's romanticized in all the wrong ways. You get shows, it's like a skinny Caucasian woman who is, you know, blonde and she's just painting a flower and she just feels like light around her. And it's like, I do not identify with anything of that sort. um, but yeah. Ah, oh my gosh, like the art community is so diverse and it's so funny because it started off with like these older Caucasian men in the Renaissance who painted churches. But now it's
Actually,
like, ta-da!
art wasn't considered art way back in, I don't know, I think it was, wait, I've heard my notes somewhere. I think it was the 7th century when China and Japan were making their prints. Remember? This is before, I think this was before painting was even a thing. Print was a thing before painting was a thing. 7th century, Japan and China. People forget about that. Like, they've been doing print for God knows how long, since like the beginning of time. And the people just forget about that part. And these are people of color. These are East Asians we're talking about. Okay, and it's the West came.
Like, I know so much about German art. Like, I remember being so disappointed in like my art history class when I was like in high school, because we spent like 2 weeks in Germany, 2 weeks in Paris. Like these are like in cities, man. Like, and then it was 1 week in Asia. Asia's a continent. Like, what part of it are we in? Southeast Asia? Are we in no? Like, Asia, the continent. But here are like 10 like little cities in Europe that we'll look at. So all I have ever known is.
I mean, Asia is so diverse. There's East Asia, which is more normalized for like print and stuff. Southeast Asia, which is like a combination of print and painting. You go to South Asia, which is more for like miniature paintings and like that type of stuff. And like I think there is printing in there, but not as much as East Asia. And we go to the Middle East, where it's more like Islamic art and stuff, right?
I know, like their manuscripts are beautiful.
Exactly, and they forget about all that because Europe comes and colonization comes. I feel like the colonial mindset is just like Europe. Whereas if you had the entire part where like, hey, the thing that you're making in Europe right now, it was in China and Japan, like hundreds of years ago, what you're taking credit for, and you totally forget about that. It's kind of frustrating. Like a lot of the biggest stuff started in Asia, and Asia's content. It goes from like East Asia all the way to like almost near Africa. That's where the Middle East ends, which is like West Asia, which people, you know what I mean? It's baffling the fact that colonialism is so big that they're taking this entire continent and turning it into this one city or like one country. It's just like you're forgetting that there's like at least 20 countries in there with a unique culture of their own, unique arts of their own, and just like it's gone from history, from textbooks and everything because the Western perspective takes over the Eastern perspective. Why? Like, especially, you can't call it a diverse community and like just focus on Europe and the Western perspective. That's not very diverse. That's limiting perspective. That's limiting, the way people think about the art and what they want to put out there. Which is why I feel like it's important that people like you and I, we focus on the Eastern perspective. Know that there is more than just colonialism. There's more there's more voices out there than just that one voice that's been like taught to us over and over again.
I find it harder to be an artist when you're Asian. Like, I was so close to being a nurse, and it's so stereotypical, Filipino nurse. Like, I feel like there is that pressure to live up to my cousins who are nurses and, like IT specialists, and I'm kind of just like, I print stuff. Yeah, like, even like my job, right? Like, yes, I work at a print place where I print stuff and whatnot, but I also like film TikToks for my boss when he needs it. And when they're like, so what do you do at your workplace? It's like, I make video content. They're like, oh. I'm like, no, like, it's not a bad job, I swear. People don't see me editing for hours, right? And like, everything's on your phone. Like, you look like you're addicted to your phone. It's like, it's my work. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I think there's a lot more like barriers for us to overcome when like people of color become artists. At least like I've found. And then like what's on the other side of the fence is a bunch of Western art that I can't relate to. So
it's true. I feel like we need to put that out there. I feel like my art is about focusing on the East, like the fashion part of it, and commercialization of that, and like the East versus West. I'm focusing on the entire fashion cycle versus you are almost the fashion cycle, but like I like the fact that you're promoting slow fashion, being mindful of it is a good thing. Making piece one by piece, making exclusive, that type of thing.
Thanks for letting me blabber on, and I appreciate what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for coming, y'all.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Bye.